What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strident, and I'm back with another video. This time we're going to tackle a subject that it seems like it just always comes back, and I always have to say something about it, and that is racism in comics and just in fiction, geekdom, geek fiction, whatever. So, Lee Bermejo, artist and writer, is working on a new comic for DC Comics. It's in line with their new philosophy on diversifying all of the books that they've been publishing for a while, or a bunch of the books that been publishing for a while, and pushing a couple new ones that have more of they speak to a more diverse audience. He says that he is going to expand the Robin concept beyond teenage white kids who all look the same. If you read the article, which I will have a link to it in the description, the article goes on to explain that there are characters within the Batman universe who kind of fit the MO of or the description or the whatever. They have the same catalysts in their lives that the previous Robins had, and for some reason they just never were. They weren't used in the same way that Dick and Jason and Tim and even the girls, Stephanie and Carrie, and Damien. They weren't used the same way those guys were. So they didn't become Robins. They were just, minority kids who had unfortunate shit happen to them, because in reality, this shit happens all the time. And if Gotham is as, jacked up as it is, as we're led to believe, then this shit happens every day. And Batman only chooses the kids that look like Dick Grayson to be Robins. So anyway, he's saying he's going to make a bunch of new Robins and focus on them, and they're all characters who, especially the main one who you see up close, I think his name is Duke Thomas. He was from Batman Year One, the Snyder and Capullo Batman Year One, and they're going to try to expand it and change the status quo from being just a bunch of white kids that all look the same. Now, Bermejo works for DC Comics. He's one of the best artists to ever draw Batman. He's pointing out a fact. All of the Robins look the same. Anyway, so I pointed out when I saw this post, I said, man, it's like, I just felt like it's late. They should have done this years ago. I don't know why it's necessary to wait till now and try to push this diversity angle on people after they've made so many missteps with, changing people's race and whatnot. So I made my comment because I thought it was weird. When I looked at the comments, you know me, I'm inclined to read the comments. I realized, almost like a news, like a the old days when they throw the little newsies run by and throw the newspaper down and they're like, extra, extra, read all about it. Lots of angry white males when talk of diversity shows up. I made my comment. It's 30 years too late, but the first to complain and condemn are a bunch of white guys who've been catered to, with the way comics have been whitewashed all since the beginning. And if we, people of color, we were forced to accept this whitewashed world of comics if we liked superheroes. It's a damn shame. All the hate that I got was insane. It went from just people disagreeing with me while not really reading the article or my statement properly, to straight up racist comments and images and everything. And I'm saying to myself, these are the people who read our comics. One guy goes on to try and tell me that no one forced me to read the books and no one stopped me from creating my own characters, as if he knew who I was, and he knew that I just didn't ever have any hand in creating any characters, Much like no one can take away the victim mentality that I seem to have perfected, he says. If you think these are so awful, take them down with your own amazing ideas from that new comic company that you're starting. Oh, wait, you're not starting one, just bitching about it. Oh, I see. And, someone else seconds his emotion, and then another guy tries to jump in and repeat the same shit without any knowledge of who he's talking to. I'm not saying I'm some big fish, but I'm at least trying to change the things I don't like about comics in general. And I let them continue, you know, because I was like, wow, all you have to do is click on my name and look at some of the stuff that I've done. And you could tell when you see the stuff there, oh shit, he worked for Warner Brothers. Oh shit, he has a comic book, his own book, you know. And then if you dig a little bit further, you would see that I have done other work in the industry. Just a little bit, you know. It's all independent stuff, you know. A lot of it is local. A lot of it is with smaller companies that are, you know, here and there on different parts of the United States. But Warner Brothers is pretty big, you know. Um, and then I'm also on YouTube, and I've been pushing a lot of what I've been doing. And I mean, I know that's not a huge deal, but it's something. They didn't do any research, and they just keep going on and stroking each other's Johnsons and talking this ridiculous, like, rhetoric. The same old shit we heard during the Ferguson riots, where they kept talking, you know, white people who had no dealings with the police in the manner that a lot of us have had. And, you know, folks that diversity, it seems to threaten them and their way of life, you know. They're the loudest voices. The most ignorant fucks are the most, you know, vocal majority. And these are the people that our movies, our comic book movies are being made for. These are the people who, you know, for a long time, these are the only people comics were made for. And those times have changed. And they can't take it. And they're trying to turn it into, you know, like reverse psychology, try to make it seem like we're doing something wrong. These faces that you see here are the first bunch. And the majority of them were complaining about the fact that DC was actually focusing on diversity. You could tell they didn't read the article because they all thought that they were going to turn one of the Robins black. Some people even went so far as to say, you know, you could have made him any color, but you chose black. So, you know, in the past, when I made that video about racism in comics, and yes, I'm putting names out there, so you all can look. You all can see it. My name's been out there for all the other stuff that I've done, all the other, you know, videos I've done, etc., etc. So here they are. They didn't read the article, so they state that, you know, they could have changed the colors of the characters to anything, the ethnicities, the nationalities, whatever, but they chose black. Nowhere in the article did it say that they're going to make a previous Robin anything. They don't even mention the previous Robins other than saying in the title that they're going to move it past, you know, a bunch of teenage white kids that all look the same. Some of these guys are so stupid that they brought up Carrie Kelly and Stephanie Brown and were like, really? Then they tried to say that Dick Grayson as Nightwing didn't look white because he's all covered up with you know, spandex. Someone else tried to bring up Damien and say he's half Middle Eastern, and I'm like, you know, really? Because on the page he looks like a white guy. I mean, even so much so that Batman could make him Robin and he still fit the you know, description, other than being younger than what we typically know as a Robin. These are factual things. Just like it's a fact that the first bunch of people to say something about this video were not positive things. They didn't say positive things, and they were all white guys saying racist things, you know, saying very negative things about, you know, varying levels of negative things, you know, with the highest point being racist things about the fact that they thought something else was going on. I mean, if you read my comment, I'm not saying anything racist. I'm telling you a fact. People attacked me. That Rob Smith guy attacked me, and he kept on going about these. It's just weird. It was like he was trying really hard to be sarcastic as if he knew me, but he didn't, you know? I then told them that I do comics and stuff, and then I got exactly what I thought I was going to get. I actually got 2 people out of the bunch, maybe 3, I think it was 3 people actually, that had intelligent things to say that were still along the lines of what I said. This guy here, Mr. Burnett, actually made sense because he understood what I was saying. I mean, up until the 60s, you really didn't have quality black characters, quality Asian characters, quality Hispanic characters. We were all negative stereotypes. Quality Middle Eastern, Jesus, we still barely have any Middle Eastern characters that are quality. So, like, come on. You know, I'm stating facts. I mean, if it hurts your feelings that someone actually reads comics and can repeat what's going on and tell you what's wrong with it, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, and then you had other people that were just stupid. I'm Hispanic. I read comics. And I read comics as a kid, and even now, and never did I feel they had to be my skin color to make me feel good or what to be a hero. And it's like, we're not talking about Hispanic people who have European ancestry. You know, you don't deal with what we're talking about because of your European ancestry. You know. Anyway, like I said, I set the record straight. I put out my information saying, you know, what I do, what book I do, some of the work I have done. And, you know, I also went in about the fact that, you know, he thinks he's talking to me like he knows everyone and everything about people he encounters on the internet. The whole bunch of them were acting like that. And they don't, you know. Um, and then a denial card where, you know, you act like the civil rights movement never happened. You act like, you know, all these various riots didn't happen. You act like segregation in various countries is just a myth. It's fake. It didn't happen. You act like comics were always portraying people of color the right way. And this is what I was met with. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. It goes to show you that for all the movement, the forward movement that we've made, we still got so far to go. And this is why I'm not into comics the way I used to be. People can't read and understand, even further, they can't understand what they read. People just hate everything that's different from them. This whole nerd like thing has just gotten to the point where I'm just like, fuck you and fuck this whole nerd movement shit. Because so many of you are faking the funk and you jump in and you're just not good people. You know what I mean? Not good people, not people I'd want to associate with, not people, I don't even want your money. You know what I mean? And I make comics and money is what makes this whole machine keep going. I don't even want your fucking money. I don't even want your eyes on my books. You know? Like, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. And it's frustrating to me that, you know, this is how it is. You know? It's just, oh, man. I had 29 comments pop up when I made my statement, and like 5 of them were positive, you know. And then when I looked at the rest of the comments for the article, a lot of them, more than half of them were 75% was just negative. And a few people pointed out that the guys making the most noise didn't read the freaking article because the article doesn't say anything about the things they were complaining about. This Rob Smith dude sitting up on his, you know, high horse talking shit about other people and their comments to what he said. He even was like, apparently these characters you made, you know, these amazing characters of color, they weren't very, you know, interesting because I've never heard of them. What if I just started my book today? What if I started it yesterday? What if I started it, you know, a year ago and it happened to be an independent production? Unless you go looking at it, you would never see all this stuff. I don't know. It was just dumb. I mean, people were saying this guy's going to feel dumb when he realizes that the white kids who all look the same were chosen for that exact reason, to maintain the illusion that Batman and Robin aren't people who die, but whatever, whatever, whatever. Dude, these guys are writers for DC Comics. They know who Batman and Robin are. Who's the idiot if you're sitting there trying to school the guys working on the actual book, and the book hasn't come out and he's saying that he wants to change something that has been grossly overlooked, you know? And this is how it is. You always have asshats on the internet that want to try and school everybody else the wrong way. One of the positive comments was by Ted Kendrick, and he pretty much just explained to them about what kinds of superheroes were out during the various times, you know, the Silver Age, and, you know, the civil rights movement was going on, and it was reaching its boiling point, and we still didn't have a correct representation of diversity, because comics didn't give a shit about that, because You know, all the white males that were reading it, they could afford to keep on paying to buy these comics, and they didn't feel they needed to change. I mean, this is just fact, you know? I don't want it to be this way. This is how it is. This is how it was. I seconded what he had to say, and the shit didn't stop there, you know? But I pointed out that Homeboy was operating underneath a mountain of ignorance or a mountain of white privilege. He's blind to the issues, and some of us are working to fix these things the right way. And I can say that because I am actively doing something. Some fat fuck popped up and says, you know, some shit about me using the term white privilege. And he tries to correct me when I use the term whitewashing, as did many other people. We are not talking about, you know, gender bending, or I'm sorry, not gender, race bending. We're talking about a sea of white folks that's supposed to reflect the world we live in, because some of the events, you know how Marvel always mirrored the real world, yet so many of Marvel's heroes were white and hardly any of them were black. I mean, you know, you were talking the 60s, you had freaking what? Panther and Falcon, and they were the high profile ones. Blade was somewhere later on. Storm was somewhere in there, and that's it. Those were the high, like the major ones. Rhodey might have come in somewhere later on, but you know, considering that you can count all these people on two hands or on your hands and your toes, but you cannot count the amount of white faces that made up the Avengers and the Justice League of America back in those days, it's kind of unfair, and it's a fact. I'm not making up new information, you know? But I thought it was funny how when I said something about what I'm doing, what I am, you know, my little piece that I'm trying to contribute, they still want to try and talk shit, you know, talking about they hand out trophies for trying. The fuck? Why can't you just say my bad? You know what I mean? Like, just my bad. And then let it rest. And then continue bitching at the people writing the thing instead of focusing that towards someone who is actually trying to create diverse characters, you know, to appeal to characters who are tired of, you know, what's out there. You had some people who jumped in, and you could tell they didn't even read what I said, and they just seconded and repeated what was being said by the other guys. This guy, I think, is talking to, you know, Bermejo and you know, DC and Marvel in general, because he's saying, you know, they should create new characters, not just, you know, the black version of. And that's one of the things that I wanted to point out, is that I've always had an issue with, you know, shit, even here, I'm saying I'm not buying this. It's a gimmick. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, this would have been awesome. But anyway, you know, no matter how much sense I made, this is where we ended up. One guy calling me racist, or saying that I'm shouting out the words racist, and I didn't. I never used that word. And then another guy saying, you know, using the the word nigger. And it's just open, blatant racism, you know? It's one of those things where it's like, you know, there are some people, you know, the Darwin Awards, there are some people who should be allowed to go to the hood and be this ignorant. Let them get erased. They did it to themselves, right? I'm not even talking this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? I'm straight up saying they waited too long to do this, and what they should have done is they should have done this years ago. Right now, this is like, they could have just done it and not said anything about it, and people would have read the stories and been like, oh, okay. Instead, they announce it like they should get kudos for it. These guys didn't read that in my statements. So, I don't know. You know, these kind of conversations, they frustrate me, and they also make me sad, because it's like, we're not making any progress. You know, as a people, we're not making any progress. As quote unquote nerds, you're not making any progress, because every time we make a step forward, fucks like this pull us right back down. I don't want to be associated with these fucks, you know? And, you know, like I said, internet logic at its finest. I didn't call anybody any names. I just said you operate under, oh, I did. I called someone a troll. That's as far as it went. Dude was trolling hard. He trolls everybody in this post a bunch of times. And you know, everybody tried to be a little bit more respectful than, you know, he deserved, a lot more respectful than he deserved. But it all ended up with Aldo's comments here, or Mr. Trillo. He says that, you know, after reading all these comments, it's why he's excited for, you know, all the diversity that's going to be in comics, because clearly we need it, even if it's force fed. This statement gets fought, and I mean, just read. You can read what's being said. It just boggles my mind that this is who we're dealing with. These are the people who make up the readership in America. Fat, sloppy, ignorant fools that perpetuate racist thought. Here, Lee Bermejo is talking about diversifying further. I mean, yes, it is a gimmick that his company, the company he works for, is doing, but he is talking about diversifying. It's not a bad thing. I don't see what the negative connotation is. Why is there a negative connotation when it comes to speaking about diversity? Why is it a negative in any way, shape, or form? They did not say that they were going to do like they did in the past and make white characters black. They said they were just going to introduce more characters of color into the fold or into the mix. Why is that so scary? Why is that grounds to argue and fight and spew racist rhetoric and all that crap? Why is it? Why is that necessary? You know what I mean? Like, what is being broken by adding this to the mix? It's fantasy. And you're saying in fantasy we can only color with one crayon? You know, it's bad enough that some people think that's how it should be in life. You got all these colors out there and you can only use one colored pencil, one marker. You know what I mean? It's got to be black or white. Like, really? Is that quality? That doesn't even make sense. Then you got artists that are saying, you know, there's all these colors out there. We should start using all of them. And then you have idiots, these armchair warriors that are so good at typing out hateful shit, but not good at using their imagination for anything positive or even to contribute anything to our world other than, you know, shit. Walking piles of shit, you know? That's their contribution. Every day they get up, they practice being a walking pile of shit, and they treat people like walking piles of shit, and that's their legacy. You know, that's it. That's what they give to us. When they could be actually trying to add some kind of color to the world, some kind of imagination, some kind of wonder, some kind of like positive wonder. Because I do wonder how these people can, you know, operate like this, you know. But, you know, I do hope for their sakes that they all live forever. I hope so. I hope you live forever so that you never have to deal with, you know, the karma that you're racking up, the bad karma that you're racking up from doing all this shit, you know? All this negativity that you're putting out, it's got to come back at some point, you know? I hope somehow you guys never have to deal with it, because this shit is ridiculous. And some of you have families and you're raising kids to be hateful people, and it's not helping. This is fantasy. We're supposed to wonder. We're supposed to use this as an example of, you know, the good, the greatest good that we can be in some cases. And you guys are fucking it up with this jacked up logic, this hateful, jacked up logic. And it makes me sick. And I don't want to have anything to do with this, you know? This is partially why I just don't get into it with people about comics anymore, because I just don't care. I don't care because these are the people who, you know, who make up that readership. Anyway, check out the article. I'm Strident. This is my story and I'm sticking to it. And I will talk to you later. Peace outside.